Hello students! In this lab video I'm going to give you an overview of our resource consumption lab. And this particular lab is using a little bit of a different platform than we're used to using. We're going to use something called a geographic information system. And this is essentially a mapping system, but it's so much more than that. The great thing about GIS is that your maps can come to life and they can tell stories. And the way that we do this is we embed data in the map itself, and then we use that data to actually illustrate something for us. So we can designate areas on a map using data. We can highlight or pinpoint certain sites or locations on a map. And the nice thing about this tool is it gives us more than just a physical location. So the first thing I wanted to do is I wanted to show you an example of what a map looks like first. And actually this ties in perfectly with what we have been talking about in our Kenya Virtual Exchange. And this is what's called or referred to as a story map. And this is something that actually can be created with a GIS system. The one that we're going to be using for our resource consumption lab is more simplistic than this, but I wanted to share this with you because, again, I think it's a really great tie-in with what we've been learning about with the Kenya Virtual Exchange. So this particular story map is going to talk about a lot of things that we have already discussed, including what and where the Serengeti Mara ecosystem is. And again, we're familiar with this already. So the way the story map works is you sort of just click on each of these different buttons here on the left. So I'm going to click on number 2. And it's going to show me where the ecosystem is. And again, we're familiar with this already because we have been looking at sort of this Kenya Virtual Exchange. We're familiar with the Masai Mara ecosystem. The Serengeti is here as well, so it talks about where it is. You can look at the next part is now we're in the same region. We're in the Serengeti Plains again and the Masai Mara here, and you can actually look and see this is a rainfall map to show you where rain is falling. And in each of these areas, we have the same location map here in the background, but what we're differing now is we are changing the story that we're telling. And now we're telling a story about rain. So you click on the button here that says legend, and the legend tells us how much rain these areas are receiving. So the rain actually is being denoted here in millimeters in this case rather than in inches. And you can tell that there are very dry areas here in red, and then the coloring changes to the very, very wet areas that are sort of here in the blue, right? So again, this is both a physical representation of the land area that we see itself, but we're also learning something about it using this geographic information system. So I'm not going to go through the entire Serengeti map here. I have put a link to this map in the lab folder this week. So I highly recommend you sort of reading the story and going through it yourself so that you can actually learn more about it. But I just wanted to show you a story map to see what's possible using geographic information systems. So our lab this week is looking at a little bit something different. We're going to be looking at resource consumption. So this week we have been learning about sustainability. We've been learning about urbanization, in addition to, again, still participating in our Kenya Virtual Exchange. So what we're going to do now is we're going to use a map, and we're going to actually try to answer some questions about resources around the world, which places are consuming a lot of resources and which places are consuming fewer resources. So, excuse me, I've given you a link to the map here. So in the lab, you will click on the map, and that is the map that looks like this map right here. And just as you saw in the story map, what we have is just a map of the world, but what we've done is we've created some color coding so that we can read more about the map. So right now we're looking at gross national income per capita. It's also called PPP. It just means per person, what's the average income is kind of the way to look at it. And those countries that are in darker green here have higher incomes. Those countries that are sort of in a lighter shade of green have lower incomes. So some things that you should know about the map. So I have details right here. This details window will open or close, so based on whether you have it open. The content of the map is the link you're going to click when there are different things we want to see on the map. So right now in the in the legend button, the only data we have showing up here is gross national income. But in the lab, I'm going to ask you to turn on different things in the map. So you would click on content here, and let's say we don't want to know about the gross national income anymore. Let's say we want to know about energy use now. So we're going to click on the energy use instead. And again, we have a different shading of the map now. And once again, if you want to know what the colors mean, you click on the legend button. And the legend button tells us how many millions of BTUs per person we're using annually. Darker blue means higher use, lighter color means lower use, okay? So again, depending on what the lab asks you, you will turn on these different, we refer to these as layers, is what we call these. So we have literacy, life expectancy, energy use, income, and human development index. So these are all things you're going to turn on at separate times during the lab. Another thing you might be asked to do is you might be asked to find the top 5 countries for a certain ranking that use the most energy, or the top 5 countries that have the highest income. Now you could click around the map and try to figure that out, but what's easier is to actually click on Show Table, and you will get the data, the actual data that's embedded here in this map. Okay, so if I wanted to rank this by highest or lowest per capita income, again PPP, I can click on the column here and it'll ask me, do you want to sort ascending or sort descending? So I'm going to sort, in this case, let's sort descending, okay? And this is going to tell me, again, which countries have the highest PPP, and then it goes all the way down to the lowest. And again, you can rank this in sort ascending as well. And again, we don't have data for some of these countries, so you would have to go down until you start to see some data here, so that the data set isn't 100% complete. And as I'm scrolling down here, it might take me a while. Oh, here we go. We get to the first countries that actually have data for us, and it starts in sub-Saharan Africa with the Central African Republic. So in any case, these are the things you're going to need to know for this lab. Again, you can turn the table on and off at any time for any of these layers. You click the check box next to the layer in order to see the data, right? So you can actually visualize it on a map. You can again show the table down here so that you can actually see whatever it is that the data that we are looking for. And then don't forget, you can use the legend button here to actually see what the color coding looks like. So that should be it for lab this week with the GIS system. If you have any questions about it, please let me know.